Hey everyone, I'm recording this on August 25th, 29th of 2025, and it's the first night of college football season for my Michigan State Spartans. So I wanted to celebrate that with a football guy. So I've invited Greg Holcomb to come on to the podcast and talk about the mental side of quarterback play. Greg, how you doing?
Good, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing great. So I guess to jump off, right? Like you said, we were talking before we started recording, and you have a player, in that game tonight. Michigan State's backup quarterback is one of the guys you've trained. So when you watch that game tonight, which I'm presumably you will do, how will you watch that? Will you watch it as a fan or will you watch that as a coach?
I think I usually do that in both ways for almost
Uh-huh.
any game I watch. Obviously, being a quarterback guy, I like to watch a football game just to be as a fan and watch.
Hmm.
And then I like to watch, I really like to watch the X's and O's and,
Hmm.
all the offensive schematic stuff that I really enjoy, play callers and just design and all that.
Hmm.
But then it's the quarterback, how he physically moves and plays, his footwork, his, throwing angles and all that kind of stuff. So when you're watching college football, obviously, different from the NFL with the elite of the elite. I just try to see like, what guys look like. So I'll be interested to watch Childs and hopefully Alessio, the kid I've been
Hmm.
training since like, I don't know, fourth or fifth grade, gets a shot. Both very talented kids, both great
Hmm.
kids. People probably don't know this, but they very much support one another. There's a great room there. There's no animosity, like nobody's cheering against somebody, hoping that they don't do well, so
Hmm.
the other guy can play. And I think the coaching culture there has done a great job fostering that. So it'll be fun to watch that game. Yeah, I can't wait.
Well, as an alum and a fan, it's great to hear. You don't always get that sort of perspective, right? But I think it's really important, right? And I think, not to go too far down a rabbit hole about college football, but I feel good about Jonathan Smith building that program, right? And
Oh, no.
having, he's done it. He did it at Oregon State, and he's doing it at Michigan State. I think if we're patient as fans, we're going to see that. And having a young man that you've worked with be in a good coaching environment is something that I'm sure makes you very, very happy.
Yeah, I
Um,
love it.
when I watch my clients, right, as a mental performance coach, I really try to focus in on sort of the controllable things, right? The body language, the facial expressions, the responses may be harder to do with a football player because he's behind a mask. But like from that perspective, right? Like what are some of the things you might look for in a quarterback to say like, hey, he looks like he's really sort of dialed in, focused and feeling good and confident versus, hey, I'm seeing some things that maybe, are red flags because of the way he's carrying himself or the way he's just playing the pace of play.
Yeah, it goes back to just that even keel kind of like, you throw a bunch of touchdowns and
Hmm.
you can celebrate and be happy, but don't get too excited because it can go a different direction really quickly. And the same thing with, on the negative side, you can throw
Hmm.
a few picks and start to think like, my day is going this way,
Hmm.
or, you got to pull yourself out from that. So body language is huge. I remember, I think Mike Krzyzewski pulled Bobby Hurley
Hmm.
aside in the offseason and literally had a clip of all of Bobby Hurley's facial expressions and reactions to negative things throughout his entire freshman year of basketball.
Hmm.
And when Bobby Hurley watched that, he was like, I can't believe that's me, right? Like he almost was like out of body, like not even recognizing how poor his facial expressions and his
Yeah.
body language was to negative situations. And I think that, is what helped him become such a leader and be such, like he changed that, right? He went from this freshman kind of brat attitude to this like,
Uh-huh.
I can't be like that if I'm going to be the point guard for Duke basketball. And so I use that story all the time to tell kids, like, you can't walk off the field. Kids grab their helmet, they put their hands up in the air, they just do all these like body language things. And if I'm an opponent and I see that, especially in the quarterback,
Yep.
I'm going to be like, I'm already in this kid's head, right? Like,
Yep.
I'm going to continue to try to get him out of his element, to make him make
Hmm.
more mistakes. So it's like showing your cards, right? You can't show your cards to the defense
Hmm.
uh, or your opponent in any sport to let them take advantage of you. So you've got to have that like just bounce back mentality
Yeah.
and not let anybody see your frustrations.
It's so interesting you say that. So like this I've the last like couple of weeks I've tried to get myself back into sort of X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, like kind of get in there and sort of be a little bit more active. And I saw a post about baseball this morning, but the post was related to body language, right? Like your body language needs to like be this and look like this. And it was sort of like this instruction. And I responded to the post and I said, you need to have someone to hold you accountable, right? Because there's so many times where we demonstrate that body language. We don't even realize we're doing it. Someone's got to see it and someone's got to
Mhm.
coach it so that you know, hey, you're doing it and it's not helping you, right? It's not helping
Right.
us, right? And the willingness to be held accountable and to be coachable is huge, right? So like talk about that in your work, right? Obviously you're doing a lot of this work behind the scenes, you're training guys, they're not on the field necessarily in a game, but you're doing it behind the scenes. So how do you sort of train that with quarterbacks and like what are some of the things you might say to them when you're training them?
Yeah, those are all the leadership capabilities. I think, I've been on the sidelines watching quarterbacks that I
Mm-hmm.
train that will perform poorly and come off the
Mm-hmm.
field. And I think there's two very different directions that you can go. It's I'm going to stand off to the side and isolate and be in my own world and have like
Mm-hmm.
kind of a pity party for myself or whatever. And there's the guy that goes and gets everybody together and is like, hey man, that's on me. I got that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
listen, guys, I'm throwing us some picks out here. Like, I need you to have my back. Like, pick me
Mm-hmm.
up. I'll bounce back from this, but know that I'm in this with you. And so, I've been on high school sidelines a lot of times and seen the
Mm-hmm.
quarterback not have that mentality and be able to like, because there's something in you, right? Like I'm playing so bad,
Mm-hmm.
but then I have to walk over and have this like rah-rah speech or try to rally guys, and they could be looking at me like, hey man, you're playing terrible. Who are you talking to? But
Mm-hmm.
if you've established that from the beginning, like I'm the leader, I'm the man, I'm running this show, they have a belief in you like he's having a bad game. This isn't who he is. He's just playing poorly. We got to
Mm-hmm.
rally behind this guy. So I think you foster that culture from the jump. I mean, when I was in high school, there were two other quarterbacks besides myself, and I was the youngest of the three. And I don't think from a talent standpoint, we were that different. And when I walked into the huddle, I acted like I was the man. I
Mm-hmm.
walked out there and I knew every play, and I just, the way that I called the play at the line of
Mm-hmm.
scrimmage, did all those things. And I think that's what got me the job. And, I was a sophomore with junior and senior.
Mm-hmm.
So, and here's the ironic thing, like that's not who I am naturally, or I wasn't like that as a 15-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'd walk down the hallways, I was shy and introverted, and I really didn't have like, this personality like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I knew when I walked on the football field that I had to change and be somebody different. So, and it's not like a Jekyll and Hyde mentality. I'm not two different people. I just knew I had to turn a switch on
Mm-hmm.
that would be this leader and kind of somebody that I knew that my guys would respect with the highest level. So I think that goes to just being able to teach that to kids. You may not have this inherent, like, I'm the man, I'm Superman, like
Mm-hmm.
up your chest and all of that, but you better find it within yourself to be able to have some of those capabilities
Mm-hmm.
so that guys rally around you.
Absolutely. So how much in your example, in your experience, right, when you were in high school, how much of that had to do with your preparation off the field? Like feeling confident that I knew exactly what I needed to do to execute to lead this team down the field.
Yeah, I had a great coach that told me something. He said, play the game in your head. And then when it actually happens on the field, it's like you've already played it.
Yep.
And I don't know if it's Drew Brees that I also have heard say that, but it's almost like, sit in your bed on the Thursday night before as you're going to sleep and
Mm-hmm.
literally play the entire playbook and imagine yourself actually running those plays in your head. And then on Friday night, when you walk out onto the field, it's almost like you've already played the game before. So it comes easier to you. So I think that you can, train yourself to do those things. And I wouldn't have known that without getting really good coaching and information from guys that knew a lot more than me. So I try to pass that down to the kids that I train. We had our youth football team last year, our eighth grade team. And, I stole a saying from JJ McCarthy. I'm like, guys, we've won the Super Bowl yet. Time just hasn't caught up with it yet. And that's a JJ
Mhm.
McCarthy thing. And so I would tell kids, like, I need you in your mind to think that we have already done this. The season's over. We're standing on that stage and we've got the trophy and we've won it. Like, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We've got a bunch of games to play. But if you start to think that way, I think that you train yourself almost to like have more success physically when it actually is happening.
Yeah, and from a mental performance standpoint, there's research to back that up, right? That those mental rehearsal reps, that visualization imagery, whatever you want to call it, is your brain thinks it's been there, legitimately thinks it's been in those situations before it's happened. Now, that's something you need to do, I think, on like anything else on a consistent basis. And maybe that's my bias because that's what I do for a living, right? But practicing that, right? And even if you see something in your mind, like the outcome is not what you want it to be necessarily when you're visualizing it, but like you can use that also as a way to see how you want to see yourself respond, right? I threw a
Right.
pick when I was going through the playbook. What happened? Oh, you know what? I
Yeah.
threw the pick. What did I learn from it? Or how did I respond to it, right? I can use that visualization in different ways. I can use it as a way to build that confidence and sort of make it unshakable. And I can also learn how to adapt based upon what I'm seeing in my mind's eye. So, like, there's just so many things we could do because when you put those mental reps with the physical reps, now you're getting this, like, exponential benefit, right? If you're only just doing physical, which is something I talk about all the time, right? Your quarterbacks are probably spending, 20 hours a week working on the physical side of the game, whether it's training, lifting, whatever it is they're doing, playbook, but like are they like doing like dedicated mental skills, right? So like that doesn't have to be 20 hours a week too. It could be 20 minutes, but it matters,
Right.
right? If JJ's, meditating a half an hour every day, like that 30 minutes is a fraction of what he's doing on the field, but it makes a very big difference.
Yeah. Think about going into like any kind of conflict situation with just
Mm.
another person, right? Like I know I'm walking into this meeting and the person that I'm going to talk to is going to have some negative things to say to me. And I already am preparing myself. How am I not going to react in a way that's going to turn this into like a really bad situation? He or she's going to say this, and I can get triggered very easily, or I can prepare myself to just go, I already know this is coming, and now I have answers for the question. So I think, whether it's sports or life or anything, you can do that.
Well, I love that you said that because that's something I actually do with a lot of my clients, especially when they're going in to have a conversation with a coach, right? Like, what do you want to say? Why are you saying it? How are you going to react when maybe you hear an answer that you don't want to hear? Like, see yourself in your coach's office. Like, imagine the conversation before it happens. Now, does that mean it's going to go exactly the way you want it to? No, but you're going to feel much more prepared and you're not going to maybe necessarily be as emotional, right? Because if a coach says something you don't like and you're not prepared for it and then you react to it, that's not going to end well, right? So like you want to prepare for those hard conversations just as much as you do prepare to be on the field, right? And I think that that's a great piece of advice. So that kind of segues into it. Like obviously you work with a lot of young people, and I want to kind of get into the developmental side of it, meaning from like the time you get them to the time they leave you, or the time they go out the door and go out on their own. But like when you're dealing with high school quarterbacks specifically, and they're preparing, they're being recruited and preparing to go off to college, like are there specific things that you kind of emphasize with them to say, hey, these are the things that you need to be able to do at the next level, and so we have to practice them specifically?
Yeah, I think it's just what you talked about earlier, the consistency, and just
Mm-hmm.
understanding that as you play, especially football, the higher you get, the harder it gets. The
Mm-hmm.
preparation that JJ McCarthy has as the Minnesota Vikings quarterback is different from the preparation that he has when he was the high school quarterback at Nazareth Academy.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. I think he's been consistent and he always will be in that. But as he's developed into a pro, he's understanding like additional ways to even get more benefit and maximize
Mm-hmm.
those things. So, if I'm talking to a high school kid and he's going off to college, I've got to let him know like, one, you're going to walk onto a college campus and there's probably going to be about five or six other quarterbacks there. And you can start to get discouraged and think like, oh man, I'm like number five or six on the depth chart because I'm the
Mm-hmm.
freshman. Or you can start to think like, I'm going to quickly move myself up to in those one, two, and three spots so that I can be getting more reps in practice and do the things that I need to do. So again, there's a really good book that I love. It's called Mind Gym, and it talks about like how you can train your mind. And it literally talks about the guy that's standing at the tee. and he's, hitting a golf ball. And you can either say to yourself, don't hit it in the water, don't hit it in the water, don't hit it in the water, and you're going to hit it in
Mm-hmm.
the water. Or you can do the same exact physical thing, right? Nothing's changing. And you can think, hit it into the hole, hit it at the tee, hit it at the flag, whatever, something positive. So you're doing the exact same thing, but
Mm-hmm.
one of them is a negative thought process.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same result you want, but you're thinking of it negatively. And the other one is thinking positively. And so I tell kids like that all the time, like, it's a physical situation that you're going to be in. Nothing's going to be changed about that. That's like an absolute. But how you approach it mentally, you can think either negatively or positively about it. So I need to remind myself of that all the time.
Of
I can
course.
easily do that too, just in my everyday life, with personal relationships or business or whatever
Yes.
it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I go through that too, especially with being a business owner, a business person, entrepreneur, whatever you want to call it, right? Like and I talk about this with young people. Being an entrepreneur is very much like being an athlete in the sense that you're investing all this time, energy, and money into the process of getting better, and there's no guarantee of results. Right. So there
Right.
are going to be some days where you wake up and go, man, I'm doing all these things and I feel like I'm doing the right things, but I'm not getting the results that I want.
Yeah.
Should I pack it in? And it's like, no, stick with the process, right? Be able to overcome the emotions that come with it, right? And it kind of goes back to the play on the field, which is like, hey, you know what? I'm sticking to the process. I'm doing it and I'm not getting the results I want, but I believe on the next rep, it's going to come out the way I want it to if I'm having the right mindset and I'm sticking to the process and not letting my emotions get the best of me because that can happen, right? We don't
Yeah.
want those emotions to get the best of us.
Right. I have a marketing background, so I
Mm-hmm.
love all the marketing and promotional stuff. Social
Mm-hmm.
media is a big thing for me. And I
Mm-hmm.
literally was just talking about this to my daughter in the car last night. And she said something along the lines of some like gymnastics posts that she had that,
Mm-hmm.
some got like a whole bunch of views and likes and others didn't. And I was like, honey, I will have this great idea and think I've got this amazing video or this awesome post, and it's going to like create some awareness and drive more business to my brand. And I'll post it and it will get like barely anything. And then I'll throw something up there that I won't have a lot of emotion attached to it. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like a whatever. And for some reason, it gets all this attention and likes and whatever. And it's just like, it's like, how does something that I think is a great idea get very few views or very, whatever? And that
Mm-hmm.
can be the same in like, anything else. I'm doing this amazing thing for this person and I get this very like little reaction. Like, I don't know, it goes to, I don't know, a personal relationship where you bought this really expensive, very nice thing for somebody and they have this, oh, thank you. And then like you hold the door for them and they couldn't be happier for you. And it's like, that was nothing compared to the other thing I did. And so, yeah, it's this like emotional thing that's attached to, this simple physical thing versus this other thing. And so, I don't know. It's crazy how your own emotions can also be attached to that too. Like I can have a negative reaction, like, why did you not care about this expensive gift that I bought you? And you're so appreciative of you holding the door. And the person's like, well, I don't care about monetary things. I care about
Mm-hmm.
acts of kindness. And it's like, wow, man, like, and so you've got to change your perspective, right? Like I've got to understand that situation and know like, okay, this person doesn't care if I would buy them a very nice watch. They
Right.
care when I open the door for them or pull their chair out or whatever that is. And I think that's just a small example to like just anything, whether it's sports or,
Yes.
what have you.
Yeah, and you could take that example, right? And apply it to the coach athlete relationship, right? A lot of players think like, "Oh, I'm doing everything right." Right? And but I'm not getting playing time. What's going on here? Because what you think your coach values isn't what they value, right? Like it could be like,
100%.
"Hey, I'm
Yeah.
making every throw perfectly, but I'm checking down every single decision." Where the coach is like, "No, I want you to take a risk and throw the ball down the field because I want you to make a big play. And if you make a mistake, that's okay." But the assumption from the athlete is, oh, you know what? I can't make any mistakes, right? But a lot of
Yeah.
times that's not communicated. So maybe that's a good segue, right? Like from a quarterback play perspective, I could see how that happens. Like, hey, I'm really accurate and I'm a 70% completion guy, but they're all under 10 yards. Where a coach is like, no, man, take chances down the field. I don't care if you make a mistake, but sometimes that's
Yeah.
not communicated. So, like, how does that concept come up in your work?
Yeah, I mean, I use an example. I remember watching Trent Dilfer running the Elite 11,
Hmm.
and Josh Rosen was like the top quarterback in the
Yep.
country, I think, at the time. And they were going through the playbook, and it was 7-on-7 or
Hmm.
whatever it was. It was routes against the defense. And he was getting frustrated with Josh Rosen because Trent Dilfer wanted him to go through these progressions and hit these specific routes in order. And Josh Rosen would just throw it to like an open guy. And Josh Rosen's mindset was, well, I completed the pass. Like, what's the
Right.
big deal? And Trent Dilfer was like, that's not what I want. I don't
Hmm.
want you to just complete the pass. And so I use that story all the time when I'm talking to kids. Like, perfect example, like in a 7-on-7 playbook that I have,
Hmm.
um, it's pure progression, which means you're going to go to the go route, the alert, like the home run touchdown is your first read. And if you can't hit that, and you know that right away in like a second, then you're going to go through the progressions from 1 to 2 to 3 and then the check down. And I
Hmm.
would have a quarterback that he would either just chuck the alert, the go route, and then he would just try to find like the check down. He wouldn't go through like the other
Right.
progressions. And he was completing passes, but we'd be in 3rd and 7, and he'd throw a 4-yard swing route, and it would get,
Hmm.
tagged, and we're out. And it's like
Yeah.
frustrating, right, as a coach. So, I teach that to our kids. Like, you might think that you've done the job, but it's not in the mindset of the coach who's trying to get you to do the bigger plan that follows with structure and being disciplined
Hmm.
and all the things that they want out of a quarterback.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think it's interesting, right? Because like in that example of like throwing the check down on 3rd and 7 is, I just feel like a lot of times young people are conditioned, they learn, right, to not that making a mistake is the worst possible outcome, right?
Yeah,
Versus, hey, it's better to make a mistake and take the risk because of the reward and we can live with that versus, oh,
yeah,
everything's got to be perfect, right? And even in that example, it sounds like you're communicating to the player like, hey, I want you to do this. I don't care if you make a mistake. And they still can't get themselves to overcome that like discomfort of, I don't want to make a mistake, right? So it's like it's fascinating to me having, doing the work that I do, that like there's just like the idea that making a mistake is the worst thing in the world and I can't do it and I got to be perfect, but they don't realize a lot of times that that's actually what's holding them back from
right.
being great and getting to the next level, because the risk is part of the equation.
Yeah. When we're training, I use 3 words. I'm sorry, four. That's a good miss. I will tell
I
guys
love
that's a
it.
good miss. Like, I don't mind that miss. If you're going to throw that throw and you're going to miss, and when I say a good miss is we get to play another down. A bad
Mm-hmm.
miss is you're throwing it to the other team, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, let's say it's a fade route from like the 15, right? So if you're going to throw that and you throw a line drive, it could get picked off. You want to throw that into the back corner of the end zone, and if no one
Mm-hmm.
catches it, that's fine. If your guy catches it, even better. If their guy
Mm-hmm.
catches it, bad. So if you throw it out of the back of the end zone, that's a good miss. We can either kick a field goal or go for it again, right? And so I try to be like, let kids know there are good misses. And honestly, like, it's not always bad maybe to take a sack. I tell kids that too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't necessarily want that. You don't want to lose yards, but you also don't want to turn the ball over in a bad situation too. Like, I'll take a
Yeah.
sack on 3rd and long versus a very high risk pass that ends up getting picked off.
Mm-hmm.
So, you try to tell kids it's okay in that situation, to miss your throw or to maybe get sacked, like whatever. I'd rather have that than something that could be just absolutely crushing mistake.
Disastrous, right? Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
was the thing that was coming up, and you said it in your response there is it's so situational, right? Like, and
yeah.
that's understanding situations and understanding risk and reward in those situations is really important. So maybe another question is like, how does that come up? Is your training structured in that way where you're doing situational stuff?
Very much so. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Like, when we're training, like, I mean, a lot of it's mechanics and fundamentals up front, but then I literally try to say, okay, here's our situation. We're in the red zone and we're rolling out to the left.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously the back of the end zone's the back of the end zone. There's just no more room. And so it's one of those situations where you need to do something that is going to keep us on the field or not take points off the board or do something along those lines. So yeah, it goes to like you said, situational, and then also just understanding we're going to be playing more football. So it's okay to maybe not have a positive result out here. Like a 3-and-out isn't always like the worst thing
Yeah.
in the world, you know? So, and that's obviously with quarterbacks. So I try to tell our kids that, listen, you're going to go 3-and-out. You're going to throw an interception. Who cares? Bounce back, right? Like I
Hmm.
threw 4 interceptions, four in the first half of a high school football game as a sophomore. And I'm sitting there in the locker room thinking, man, I'm on pace to throw eight if I'm doing that, right? Nobody throws 8 interceptions in a game ever. And so it's one of those mindsets where you can go, I'm on pace to throw eight,
Yeah.
or I'm going to bounce back and at least throw 3 or 4 touchdowns to try to like even it out because I'm
Hmm.
playing horrible. So, and I use those stories and tell that to kids because that's what's going to happen.
Well, yeah, and listen, obviously, if you look at analytics, and we live in an analytical world, someone might say, well, in a game where a quarterback throws 4 interceptions, the probability of winning that game is really low. But reality is like you can go into the end of the first half with 4 interceptions and still win the game because there's
Yeah.
another 30 minutes, right? That has to be the mentality. That's all gone. I can't get it back, right? So if I'm dwelling on the mistakes, I can't give my team a chance to get back into the game. And so like that present moment awareness of like, hey, that's over. I can't focus on the past. I've got to go in and be present to each play. And if I make a play here, hey, we're one step closer to getting back into this game, right? That's a really hard thing to do. And I think that that's something that, I'm obviously big on, but you have to train that. And that's something that, I share with a lot of my clients. Like there's a video I share that has JJ McCarthy in it with a lot of my clients when I'm introducing mindfulness to them because he's a big meditator and a big mindfulness guy. And in the video, it's a minute long, right? But in the video, he says something that I always highlight to them is like he says like it helps me be anywhere in the world and still feel the same way, right? I'm in front of 100,000 in Michigan Stadium. I'm in front of 80,000 in US Bank Stadium. I can be in front of 5,000 people, in a high school game, whatever. But I still feel the same way because I need to be present. And Russell Wilson is very big on this stuff as well, right? Being neutral, like going out there and just executing that play to the best of your ability, being present in the moment and not getting caught up in well, this is what happened on the last drive or the last half or the last quarter, and just going out
Mhm.
and executing, making the play and moving forward, right? Being a leader, right? Even though I threw 4 picks, I can still be a leader even though I'm playing poorly. Like that's really hard to do because of emotion, because we want to shut down and we want to isolate, right?
Oh yeah.
You know, I'm sure you can relate to that having gone through the experience.
Yeah, there's no doubt. You can very easily shut down. And you've got 10 other guys or 50 other guys in the entire roster that are relying on you. So
Yeah.
you can't shut down. You won't be playing very long if you do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So what's the youngest player you take in your program?
I used to not take like third graders, but
Uh-huh.
it's crazy that that's kind of just what's
Hmm.
happening now. I
Yeah.
used to tell dads like, let's play catch with them in the front yard, man. I don't have a third grade training slot. And, that was 10 years ago, and I've changed my mindset because more parents want to have their children at a young age start to be trained at quarterback. And so, yeah, we've got a third and fourth grade slot. We have a fifth and sixth grade slot. We have a seventh
Hmm.
and eighth, and we have high school. So I started to make this very, youth training spot. And it's, I don't want to crush a kid's dreams or burst his bubble that you
Hmm.
can't play quarterback. But, and when you're that age, I just pretty much am like, listen, if you want to come in and train, it's, our lowest price point. So you won't be like,
Yeah.
having to mortgage your house or anything like that. Um, and so as they start to get older, I'm very honest though. Like when you're in like middle school, I start to tell parents like, listen, I don't
Hmm.
know if this is going to happen. It's
Hmm.
I don't see the results that we should have had over these last 12 months or whatever it is. So, it's interesting. I have a kid, his name's Bryson. He's the most dialed in kid I've probably ever seen for his
Hmm.
age. He's just turned 6. It's crazy how just I mean, yeah, and kudos to his dad. Like his dad's a really good guy, but then he's also got this like, I see natural talent in my son,
Mm,
so I'm going to like,
right.
help them understand that you're different from other kids. And I trust me, there's a lot of dads that are out there that think their kid is different from other kids. I get
I love
those
it.
too. But yeah, so this kid is just like he's very focused. He doesn't say much. He comes to work. I almost have to like coax laughs and smiles out of him. You know what I mean? Like, hey man, this is like we're having fun here first,
Yeah.
you know. So I do have some really young kids, and it's interesting just to see how their brains work and how their bodies work,
Yeah.
different from the other kids, the older kids, you
Yeah.
know?
So I'm glad you said that because that's been my experience as well. Like when I first started doing this, I was like, my bias was like, you're 10, you're 11, you're 9, like I'm not going to take you on. But then I did because parents are looking for it. I have a bunch of 11-year-olds who want to work through mental stuff. And what I've learned is that you have the opportunity, I have the opportunity to like plant the seeds to get them thinking the right way and have that be something that sticks with them for the rest of their lives, right? And if the kid
Hmm.
wants to do it, I'm big on that too, right? If the kid is really like invested, that's too strong a word, but if they want to be there and they're happy with you and they're learning and they want to keep coming back, that's a good thing, regardless of
Yeah.
how old they are, right? You can influence that young man or that young woman and make a change, regardless of whether they're 17 or 7, if it makes sense, right? And as coaches, we've got
Hmm.
to assess that, right? So the other thing I wanted to ask you is like, so just I'm curious about this. Like, you have age group sort of training. Like, what's the progression look like? And obviously, I'm not asking you to go through all the details, but what are the big inflection points in training? If you start in third and fourth grade, like, how does that change until you get into high school?
Yeah. So focus mostly on mechanics. Like it's all about fundamentals when you're
Okay.
that little. It's literally sometimes like how many fingers you hold on the laces versus not,
Okay.
um, and where to position the ball in your pre-pass ball carriage. And just,
Mm,
I'm a very big visual learner, so I like to have a lot of videos on my phone and I'll show them like, here's where Josh Allen holds the football like before he starts his throw. Here are what his feet look like. And
hmm.
when they see that, I think they obviously understand, like, well, here's Josh Allen of all people, and this is what he
Hmm.
does. And I tell our kids, like, listen, I don't have like a degree in quarterback training. There's no college to go here for quarterback training. What I think is my best attribute is that I can see something and process the information and then, regurgitate it to you
Hmm.
guys. And so if Josh Allen is doing something, why wouldn't we mimic that? Why wouldn't we do the same thing that the guys who play at the highest possible level do? And so, I mean, I have videos of JJ back in seventh grade on my phone still, and I'll show them. Here's what his mechanics looked like when he
Hmm.
was younger. They were good. They weren't, flawless. And so we had to work on those things. So it's very much of fundamentals and mechanics at a very young age. And then as kids start to get a little bit more developed, we work in more situational stuff, like having them understand, like walking up to the line of scrimmage and kind of starting to understand where you start to read a defense, counting guys in the box, seeing where the corners are playing, how many safeties are over the top. And so that has nothing to do with throwing a football, right? That's just understanding how to. I mean, it says on my website, like, you don't play quarterback. You play shortstop, you play goalie, you play point guard. I don't think you play quarterback. You are a quarterback or you are not. And you can play quarterback and not be a quarterback. So what I mean by that is like you're just playing it, but really like it's not who you are. It's not part of your fabric. And I say that because I tell our kids when you're walking down the hallway at school, when you're in the cafeteria, when you're out in a social environment, I don't think malls exist anymore, but used to go to a mall, like anywhere where
Yeah.
you're at, wherever you are a quarterback. And so
Yeah.
how you hold yourself and carry yourself isn't just the guy that's standing on the football field in front of your
Right.
entire student body and their parents. If you think you're going to act like a knucklehead, but then walk out onto that football field and think you're going to be the man, those two things don't align. Like that's not how it is. So when kids are younger, it's about fundamentals and things like that. And then as they start to get older, and I feel like they can understand like some of the more physical things with playing this position, we then start to get into talking about like what it means to play quarterback versus
Hmm.
just throwing a football.
Yeah. So there's a lot in there that I sort of want to like dig into, but you said before, like there's maybe sometimes along the way in that progression developmentally where you might have to have a hard conversation with a kid or their family or both to say, hey, maybe this isn't going to happen because. So is that conversation like, is it based on physical traits and ability? Is it based on that identity mentality? Is it all of the above?
It can be all, both of them and all. Like,
Yeah.
I had a mom who was like, "Hey, my son's going into his freshman year of high school,
Hmm.
and he really wants to try to play quarterback." And right or wrong, those words automatically are like, they don't sit well with me. My son wants to try to play quarterback, right?
Hmm.
And so this kid came in, and the second he threw a foot, and doesn't have a father in his life, so doesn't have like a dad to be able to like walk him through this. So I was
Yeah.
very understanding of a mom who just wants to do the best thing for her son.
Hmm.
And the physical traits were not there. It's one of those things like if you pick up a tennis ball and throw it for your dog, what does your throwing motion look like? Because if it looks like
Hmm.
you put the ball in your left hand and it's your right hand that's throwing, it's your dominant hand, we have a massive problem.
Big learning
And
curve.
yeah, and so um, you don't have the physical traits there, but again, I can probably teach that. Like I can
Hmm.
show you how to
Right.
throw a football properly and hopefully get some results out of that. But then it's like, hey man, take a 5-step drop and throw this, you know, over to the an out route, and the
Hmm.
kid will take a 3-step drop. Hey, go play action, open up to your right and go play action and set up and then throw a backside post. And he opens up to his left. And it's like, do you not understand that I'm telling you exactly what I want you to do, but you simply aren't doing it? And
Hmm.
I think to myself, how am I going to give you green right strong F short 2 jet flanker drive and you go out into the huddle and you repeat that to your team when I ask you to take a 5-step drop and you take three?
Right.
Like, are you undisciplined? Do you not understand? Because if you don't understand, I can help you understand. But if you're undisciplined or just don't have like just the mental makeup to be able to
Yeah.
do that. And so I think that's the thing that helps me tell a parent, like, I just don't feel like this is going to happen. And I don't want to be harsh. I'm a father too, so I wouldn't want to
Yeah.
hear something negative about my child. So I try to position it as he might be a better wide receiver than a quarterback. He might be a better DB than a quarterback. He might be something else. So it's one of those things where, I mean, I have a brand that I want to be able to be proud of. And like, we have like some of the best quarterbacks in the
Yeah.
Midwest training with us, right? I also don't want to say, well, you can't train with me because you're not in that level of elite that I'd like to have. Like, there's something for everybody. But at some
Hmm.
point, too, like, I don't want to, like, there's some ethics and list, just
I
that go along with like, I'm
totally
not
get
taking
it.
your money. I
Right.
don't want to take your money when it's not like the kid's not going to play. He's not going to get on the field.
Right.
So you're going to spend thousands of dollars training him and you're never going to see the results that you want. And so then you're going to be disappointed. You might then be resentful at me because I wasn't honest and upfront with you to let you know, like, I never saw it, that it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So I like to have those difficult conversations with people when we have to.
Yeah. And I think, all the things you've said maybe over the last 5 or 10 minutes sort of tie back to the idea that you are a quarterback. That's your identity. You don't just play a position because what you've described is you can have the physical ability, you can have a big arm, you can be athletic, but if you can't think the game, you can't process, you're going to struggle. If you can't lead through adversity, you're going to struggle. If you
Right.
can't manage your emotions, you're going to struggle, right? So it takes a lot of unique ability to elevate through the ranks as a quarterback and be good, right? And not everybody's going to be capable of that. And it sounds like, and I'm sure you believe this, it's okay, but there's only certain people who have all of it, right? They have the
Right.
personality, they have the work ethic, they have the physical traits, the athleticism. And listen, we can all develop into something if we understand, like the other thing you were just saying, like managing expectations, right? Like, hey, if you think this is going to be the result in this time frame, you're probably off base, right? But if you want to
Yeah.
stick with this and do this and we're all on the same page, I'll help you, right? Versus like,
Yeah.
oh, you want to be a starting high school quarterback, when you start at 15 in ninth grade. Like that's
Hmm.
probably not realistic unless you're a freak, you know?
Right. Yeah, there's no doubt. I look at, like I use this example, like Brock Purdy. I'm a huge 49ers fan, right? As I watch Brock Purdy, I don't think he has elite quarterback ability. There's no doubt, like, you could take, I mean, we're in Chicago, right? So I look at Justin Fields, Brock Purdy. If you let them both drop back, both throw footballs, both do like
Mm-hmm.
anything just physical, I'll bet Justin Fields would look 1,000 times better than Brock Purdy from a
Mm-hmm.
physical standpoint. But there's something obviously in his mentality or his DNA or something. And he's obviously got a great coaching staff with, Shanahan and
Shanahan.
that. He's surrounded by talent, right?
Yeah.
And so, you look at two guys, and one could be ultra talented and maybe not have, and I'm not saying Justin Fields doesn't have the mental makeup and all those things. I just know that he's struggled.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at Brock Purdy, who's had a lot of success, but I don't think from a talent standpoint that Brock Purdy is a physically better quarterback than Justin Fields. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But the situational stuff and the situations that he's been put in with great coaches, surrounding talent, he's obviously dialed in mentally. He was the last pick in the draft. He probably has a mindset like, I don't have anything to lose, right? Like, or maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But it's like, top draft pick, high expectation, like not in a great situation, not surrounded by a stable coaching staff, don't have players around him. Now
Mm-hmm.
he's playing with his third team, and you've got Brock Purdy, last pick in the draft, Iowa State, like nothing special about him, and he's a very solid starter in the NFL.
Well, I think that, that takes us down a road of like evaluating players, right? Like in the sense that like I'm a football guy, like I'm a football fan and I've watched a lot of football and I played football. But Purdy is interesting because he doesn't have a big arm, but he anticipates.
Yeah,
He's not super fast or athletic, but he has like this sort of like this ability. He's tough and he's like adaptable and like he's got all
mhm,
these intangible traits. Like that's maybe the best way to categorize it. That just make him a really effective football player. And he
right.
doesn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so when we look at a player, it's so easy to just look at the tangible stuff and we don't really see all those other things that
Yeah,
really can make a quarterback great, even when they don't have the sort of obvious stuff in front of us.
yeah. A 6'5" guy that walks onto the field and can throw it 75 yards.
Right.
And then you put him in situational environment and he can't throw a slant, right? He can't pick up a blitz and throw a check down. Like, okay, great, you can walk out onto the field and throw it the length of the field, but that's not playing quarterback, right? And then the 5'11" guy that literally is just dink, 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 dink down the field, touchdown. Who do you want, right? You want the guy that doesn't look that great walking out onto the football field because he's going to get you the results.
Yeah. I mean, Drew Brees, you mentioned before, but he's like
Oh,
he's the poster boy, right? He is, if he's
yeah,
6 foot, it's a lot. But for a
right.
guy to be able to see over linemen and anticipate and throw the ball to a spot, right? And be like just deadly accurate, like that is a guy that is like he can't get enough credit. And I don't think people really do give him enough credit, even when he was playing, in terms of like
Right.
his ability to like put the ball in the right spot and anticipate and see things before they ever happen. Like that is
Yeah.
just unique. And I don't think we give enough credence to that in quarterback
Yeah.
play.
Oh, there's no doubt. He's one of the greatest of all time. And I don't think he was very highly regarded coming out of Purdue.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Chargers got him in like, I don't know, like a
Top of the
middle
second
round,
round.
maybe. Yeah, second, third. So like not high, whatever it was, um, compared to like, a first round draft pick. And just, I mean, maximized his opportunity, took
Mm-hmm.
advantage. Like, I think, I don't know this specifically, but I'm sure he's just wired in a way that other guys are not, and he probably knew he had some physical limitations with his height and
Mm-hmm.
size. And so, where am I then going to take advantage where I can? You talked about it earlier. Like, you can only control the things that you can control. He can't grow to 6'3",
Exactly.
right? So, I'm going to sit at 5'11" and just, I mean, I'm going to be deadly accurate. I'm going to know the
Mm-hmm.
playbook. I'm going to have leadership skills. I'm going like every other thing that you can possibly do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's something I talk to athletes about too, because it's really common where it's like they, when I ask a young person, particularly like if they're young, like in high school or middle school, like, what are your strengths? They kind of look at me like I'm crazy because they're so used to being coached about their deficiencies. Right. But like, if
Yeah.
you know what your strengths are and you invest and double down on those strengths, right? Like you can overcome some of the deficiencies that you can't control, like size or arm talent and all those things, right? So like it's really the perspective part of it. And I think you used that word before. Like, how do we maintain perspective? How do we like leverage what we're good at? How do we look at things we're not good at and be coachable and have that perspective of, okay, if I just keep working at this, I'm going to get better. It takes a special kind of person to be a quarterback, not only because of all the things you have to do, processing, physical ability, athleticism, and all that, but just that ability to be resilient and bounce back from adversity and to learn and to be, even keeled. I mean, it just takes a unique kind of person to play that position under the spotlight, especially as you elevate, right? So
Oh yeah.
like how do you, as we're sort of, moving towards wrapping up, right? Like how do you train that? And like, how do you how do you train that? Like, how do you sort of get the kids to sort of really like emphasize and like double down on their strengths?
Yeah, it's I think it's funny if you were standing in front of a kid and another kid that was like significantly bigger and
Mm,
taller and just like whatever walked down on the field. I think if you ask that kid, what do you think his strengths are? He's like, oh, he's big. He can probably throw it real hard, real far,
mm,
whatever. And then if you'd ask that kid his own strengths, he'd go, I don't know. Like he almost like wouldn't know. Like you can tell me what
yeah.
a kid that you've never met in your life, and it's almost like this understanding. Like
Hmm.
you need to either document or just have this mindset of like, what are the things that I do well? Right? Like I'm pretty accurate. My timing's pretty good. So, okay, so you can place the ball where you need to and you throw it on time. Do you know that's exactly what every offensive coordinator wants? Well, I don't have great arm strength. Okay, how many times are you going to throw the ball? 50 plus yards in a game. Be Tom Brady, man. Be consistent, right? And so I think when you can like help a kid understand that, he feels a little bit more at ease. Like, because one of the first things that I get from a dad that will be like, hey, man, I've got like a 9-year-old and he can throw 60 yards. And I'm like, so what? Enter him in a long distance throwing contest. Like, that doesn't mean he can play quarterback.
Hmm.
Let's get him out on the field and see what his mechanics look like and his accuracy. So, yeah, I think it's really important to just help kids to understand that. There's a great saying that I use, it's comparison is the thief of joy.
I love it.
And I think, we're in this era where we have social media in front of us.
Hmm.
And so you can see so and so like, doing all these things and he's like getting offers and he's first team all state and he's throwing like all this stuff. And so you can start to feel literally like
Hmm.
bad about yourself, like
Sure.
I'm not as good as. And that's not true. And it's so I think, that's a big thing with kids is they can be so ultra critical of themselves.
Hmm.
And it's like give yourself a break, man. Like throw a few bad balls. I tell kids all the time, if you're going to throw bad balls, throw them right here in front of me. Have a bad training day.
Yeah.
Throw like crap, like miss your target. Like that will get you better. Throwing bad in a competitive environment on Friday night, not good, right? So let's work all that out right now. Let's
Yeah.
throw some bad balls. Let's work it out. Let's understand that, that's okay and that we're going to throw good balls. So it's training QBs. It's so much bigger than just, you know, throwing the football. So kind of, taking the long way around it. So it's helping them understand what their strengths are. And
Yeah.
then also recognizing your weaknesses, right? Like let's talk about like, okay, you
Yes.
don't have great arm strength. What can we do? Can you get with a strength coach to try to improve your
Hmm.
your muscle structure and all those things? Like we'll figure out what your weaknesses are and make them less of a weakness. They might not totally go away. We've all got them, but let's like make sure that it's not this like critical thing that's going to prevent you from having success.
Right. What can we do to get better? And I think the thing that you said, and again, encapsulated in that response, which you didn't use the word, but it's trust, right? like that relationship between you and the athletes that you're training is like, hey, let's be straight with each other, right? You do this really well, give yourself credit. You don't do this well, that's okay. Let's work on it. Let's learn. Let's do what we can do to get better at it. And it's all in service of your development as a player and as a person, right? So you can get to where you want to go. Like to have those kinds of people in your development in your life is really important, right? And I think coaching is a hard job, but like I think a lot of kids struggle with not getting the coaching that they want, right? So if there's a trusting relationship and they trust you and what you're telling them and they execute on it, like that's going to give them the best chance to succeed. Does it guarantee it? No, it doesn't. It doesn't guarantee anything. But at least you feel like, okay, we're all pulling in the same direction. I know he's got my back. I'm going to do whatever he says and I'm going to leave it all out on the table and whatever happens, happens. Like if we can operate like that every single day, it's going to be a good day and we're probably going to have some success in our life, even if it doesn't lead us to the promised land.
Yeah, that's such a big thing that I tell kids all the time, do you trust me? Well, yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be here if I didn't. Then please understand I'm not going to give you bad information. I will give you good information that will help you become a better quarterback. Just trust when I say like what we're doing. Because you'll be critical of a kid and he gives you like his palms up, like what? Like I thought this, but I thought that, but this.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, man, stop all the talk back. Just listen, say, yes, sir, I got it. Okay, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's not make the same mistake over and over again.
Yeah. Coachability.
Yes, for sure.
So if there's a this is going to be my last question. So I'm trying to think. Usually, the question I ask is like, if you had to leave a listener with like one thing, one piece of advice, what would it be? I'm trying to think about if it should be for the quarterback themselves or the parent of a quarterback. So I'll let you
hmm
pick. Like, if there's one piece of advice you would give to one of those people, the young quarterback or their parent, like what would it be?
Yeah, the piece of advice that I would give is, be open-minded. Just understand like that your child, I used to watch Seinfeld all the time, and there's the episode where they brought this baby to the Hamptons, and the parents were like, "It's so beautiful. We have the most beautiful baby." And like Kramer looks into the crib, and he was like, "Oh my God," you know. And the only people that thought that that baby was beautiful are the parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to tell them, like, listen, your baby might not always be the most beautiful baby that you think that they are. So if I'm going to give you um, some advice or some criticism that you may not want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
We're coming at it from a place of we want the best for your child. And if not playing the quarterback is the best situation for them, then let's figure out how they can still play football if they want to and have fun and maybe play something else. So the advice I would give is, trust the people that are coaching your children as long as you do, right? You obviously would,
Mm-hmm.
you have a choice to put them in a certain environment. My kid can play for this team or he can play for this team. I can take him to this trainer or I can take him to this trainer. I think one of the things that separates our academy next level from some of the other
Mm-hmm.
guys is I tell it like it is. And I hear parents tell me all the time, like, I like that you tell it like it is. Like, you don't sugarcoat things. You tell kids, like, this is how it is. And that to me is what's going to happen in life. Because if you get coddled and you get babied and you walk out into the real world,
Mm-hmm.
things are not going to be very pleasant for you. So it's kind of building that tough skin and like understanding that like, we have the best interest of your child in front of you as you not even nearly as much as you do because you're their parents, you love them, but just let us do our job and trust the process, and we're going to
Mm-hmm.
hopefully get the results out of him that you want, but just trust us if that's not what you want, that we will steer you in the right direction.
Oh,
Confidence to me is the umbrella thing, right? Confidence up here. Like when I tell kids, like, do you think I'm training you to play quarterback? They're like, yeah. I go, I'm training you to have confidence more than anything. So
mm-hmm.
yes, you got to have physical ability to throw the football and be able to play QB, but it's the confidence thing at the top. If you
Mm-hmm.
walk out onto the field on a Friday night and you don't feel like you can do the job, guess what's going to happen? You will not do the
Yeah.
job. So through repetition and consistency, we're going to build confidence in you so that when you walk out there, you go, this is no problem. I
Been there,
got
done
this.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it comes back to your point. Be open minded, listen, trust, do the work, prepare, and then that confidence will come with it, even if it doesn't come at the pace you want it to. Greg,
Yeah. 100%.
thank you so much for joining me. We could have talked for another hour, but I don't
Same.
think people are going to listen for another hour. So maybe we'll do it again sometime separately. But
Okay.
thanks so much. Have a great season. And, we'll keep the conversation going.
Yeah,
Thanks, buddy.
thanks, Mike. Go Sparty, and we'll be in touch, my man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. There we go.